Émile-Auguste Chartier, better known as Alain, was a French philosopher whose work offered deeply insightful reflections on human life, responsibility, and ethics. His philosophy, though not as widely recognized as other thinkers of his time, such as Jean-Paul Sartre or Albert Camus, continues to influence thinkers, educators, and those seeking practical wisdom in everyday life. Alain's ability to blend clear, accessible writing with profound philosophical insights is what makes his work timeless. While his philosophical views were broad, they consistently emphasized the importance of individual thought, personal responsibility, and the ethical dimensions of human life. Alain's teachings are rooted in rationalism and idealism, with a sharp focus on practical application. Unlike some philosophers who may become lost in abstract theoretical constructs, Alain was concerned with the actual living of life, how one can act thoughtfully, make ethical choices, and find fulfillment in a world full of distractions and challenges. His aphorisms and essays provide profound insights into personal conduct, the nature of happiness, the development of intellect, and the pursuit of a life worth living. This video will explore Alain's key life lessons, demonstrating how they apply to both the philosophical and practical spheres of our modern existence. These lessons resonate with timeless relevance, reminding us that the path to wisdom is a matter of conscious choice and effort, not passive fate. 1. Pessimism and optimism, a matter of will. One of Alain's most enduring teachings can be found in his assertion that le pessimisme est d'humeur, et l'optimisme est de volonté. Pessimism is a matter of mood, optimism is a matter of will. For Alain, this distinction between mood and will forms the foundation of a deeply practical approach to life. Pessimism, he argues, is often a transient emotional response, a result of circumstances, fatigue, or disappointment. It is not an intrinsic feature of reality, but rather a temporary emotional state. Optimism, in contrast, is not something that happens to us, it is a choice we actively make. It is an attitude we cultivate through the exercise of our will. This idea of optimism as a matter of will is significant because it empowers individuals. Alain insists that we are not victims of our moods, rather, we have the ability to shape our emotional outlook through intentional action. Choosing to focus on the positive, reframing challenges as opportunities, and maintaining hope in the face of adversity are all acts of will that we can consciously practice. The modern world often presents us with a myriad of challenges: economic instability, political unrest, and personal difficulties. In such times, pessimism can easily take hold. However, Alain encourages us to resist succumbing to negative thinking and instead adopt an attitude of optimism, which can serve as a source of strength. This does not mean ignoring difficulties or pretending that problems don't exist, but rather confronting them with the belief that solutions are possible and that we can influence our own outcomes through determined effort. In practical terms, Alain's perspective on optimism offers a powerful framework for emotional resilience. By focusing on what is within our control and choosing to act with purpose and positivity, we can transform our responses to life's difficulties and foster a more hopeful outlook. 2. Happiness is made, not given. Alain's philosophy on happiness is one of personal agency and creation. Rather than viewing happiness as something that is bestowed upon us by external circumstances or random luck, Alain argues that happiness is a product of intentional effort and internal discipline. Alain writes, La joie n'est pas un don, elle est faite. Happiness is not a gift, it is made. This notion stands in contrast to many modern attitudes toward happiness, which often revolve around the idea that happiness is something to be found, whether in wealth, social success, or fleeting pleasures. Alain, however, views happiness as a state of being that is cultivated through conscious decisions and efforts. For Alain, happiness is the result of living in accordance with one's values and principles, cultivating good habits, and finding meaning in everyday actions. It is not something that comes from external sources, but rather something that is made through personal growth, self-discipline, and a commitment to living a life of purpose. To make happiness involves adopting a mindset that prioritizes internal fulfillment over external validation. This means engaging in activities that align with one's true desires, maintaining a sense of gratitude, and developing a calm, peaceful attitude toward life's challenges. Happiness, according to Alain, is not an emotion that simply appears, it is a constant, active process of living with intention and thoughtfulness. In today's fast-paced, consumer-oriented world, this lesson is especially relevant. We are often bombarded with messages that suggest happiness comes from acquiring things or achieving status. Alain's philosophy offers a refreshing antidote to this consumerist mentality, encouraging us to find fulfillment within ourselves and to make happiness a deliberate aspect of our lives through our actions, thoughts, and relationships. 3. Action precedes emotion. One of Alain's more psychologically astute insights is his idea that action precedes emotion. Alain suggests that, rather than waiting for the right emotions to feel motivated, individuals can take action and let their feelings follow. This principle is aligned with modern psychological theories, such as cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT, which holds that our thoughts, feelings, and behaviors are interconnected. By changing our actions, we can often change our emotional state. Alain writes, "C'est l'action qui produit l'émotion." It is action that produces emotion. For Alain, this means that when we are faced with a challenging task or a difficult emotion, whether it's fear, sadness, or anxiety, we should not wait for our feelings to change before we act. Instead, we should begin the task, take the first step, and allow our emotions to adjust as we move forward. This idea is liberating because it removes the dependency on external circumstances or internal feelings in order to begin making progress. Too often, people wait for a feeling of readiness before taking action. But Alain teaches that acting first, even in small, incremental ways, can bring about a shift in emotions, creating momentum and confidence. For example, when someone feels overwhelmed by a large project, Alain would suggest breaking the task down into manageable steps and simply starting. The emotions of uncertainty or anxiety may still be present, but as one begins to make progress, those feelings may dissipate or become less overwhelming. This lesson is empowering because it reinforces the idea that we have agency over our emotional states. Instead of waiting for our feelings to align with what we need to do, we can take proactive steps to create the emotional and mental environment we want to live in. 4. The importance of critical thought, distrusting systems, trusting people. Alain's skepticism toward large institutions, systems, and ideologies is one of his most distinctive features. He believed that the individual should trust their own judgment above all else. Systems, whether political, educational, or social, can often pressure individuals to conform to predetermined ideas and values. For Alain, true freedom and intellectual growth come from questioning and critically engaging with these systems. In his works, Alain cautioned against uncritical obedience to authority, whether in the form of political regimes, religious dogma, or even social trends. He argued that it is through independent thinking and moral reflection that we arrive at genuine truth, not through following established norms or ideologies. For Alain, critical thought is the essence of freedom. It is not enough to simply accept ideas that are handed down to us, we must actively engage with them, question them, and decide for ourselves what is true, moral, and meaningful. This is why Alain also placed a strong emphasis on education, not as the mere acquisition of knowledge, but as the development of the capacity for independent judgment. His work encourages individuals to question the status quo, challenge traditional beliefs, and resist the pressure to conform. In this sense, Alain's philosophy advocates for intellectual courage, the willingness to stand apart from the crowd and think for oneself, even in the face of social or political pressure. 5. Education as the awakening of judgment. As both a philosopher and a teacher, Alain viewed education as an essential process for cultivating independent thought. However, for Alain, education was not about merely memorizing facts or following a curriculum. It was about awakening judgment, the ability to think critically, make informed decisions, and act responsibly. Alain writes, "L'education est l'éveil du jugement." Education is the awakening of judgment. The goal of education, according to Alain, is not simply to prepare students for jobs or social roles, but to develop their capacity for reflective thinking and moral discernment. An educated person, in Alain's view, is someone who possesses the ability to evaluate situations critically, make ethical decisions, and contribute meaningfully to society. This is a deeply humanistic view of education, one that emphasizes the development of the whole person rather than just technical skills or vocational training. It aligns with Alain's broader belief in the importance of self-mastery and personal responsibility. Education, for Alain, should help individuals cultivate not just knowledge, but wisdom, the ability to navigate life thoughtfully and with integrity. 6. The importance of self-discipline in achieving freedom. Alain often emphasized the idea that true freedom is not the absence of constraints but the ability to act in accordance with one's values and principles, even in the face of external pressures. For Alain, freedom was a deeply internal concept, something that is achieved not by external circumstances but by the discipline of the will. In his view, self-discipline is a form of personal freedom. He believed that those who fail to develop self-control become slaves to their desires, emotions, and circumstances. Without self-discipline, one is constantly at the mercy of external forces, whether it's the temptations of modern life, the expectations of others, or the whims of society. La liberté n'est pas la possibilité de faire ce qu'elle en veut, mais la capacité de vouloir ce qu'elle en fait. Freedom is not the ability to do what we want, but the capacity to want what we do. This quote sums up Alain's belief that true freedom is the ability to align one's actions with their values and desires, regardless of external distractions. It is an active freedom, one that requires constant practice and attention. The more an individual masters their internal impulses, the freer they are to live a life of meaning and purpose. For modern individuals, this life lesson is especially relevant in an era marked by instant gratification and constant distractions. Alain reminds us that the greatest freedom is the ability to focus, to act with intention, and to live in harmony with our deepest values. Self-discipline is not just about refraining from indulgence, it is the key to living a life of authenticity and moral clarity. 7. The role of reflection in personal growth. Alain was a strong advocate for reflection as a means of personal development. For him, taking the time to reflect on one's actions, thoughts, and emotions was essential for growth and wisdom. He believed that without reflection, life becomes a series of mindless reactions to events, rather than an intentional journey of self-discovery. Il n'y a pas de liberté sans réflexion. There is no freedom without reflection. This idea suggests that true autonomy, freedom of thought and action, requires self-awareness and introspection. Without reflection, we are at the mercy of our impulses, social conditioning, and automatic responses. Reflection, then, is the practice of stepping back and observing ourselves, questioning our motivations, and considering how we might improve. Alain also believed that personal growth was a continual process, one that required regular self-assessment. Life is not static, and neither should be our understanding of it. To make the most of our experiences and learn from our mistakes, we must engage in consistent self-reflection. Whether through journaling, meditation, or philosophical inquiry, reflection allows us to gain greater clarity about ourselves, our values, and our place in the world. In the modern age, where people are often too busy or distracted to reflect deeply, Alain's lesson is crucial. By carving out time for regular reflection, individuals can build a more thoughtful and intentional life, constantly refining their understanding of who they are and what they want to achieve. 8. The value of patience in achieving goals. In a fast-paced, goal-oriented society, Alain's perspective on patience provides a necessary counterpoint. He argued that many people seek instant results or immediate gratification, but true success, fulfillment, and wisdom require time, effort, and perseverance. La patience est la vertu des sages. Patience is the virtue of the wise. Alain's emphasis on patience speaks to the necessity of enduring hardship and delay on the path to personal achievement and understanding. In a world that often values quick fixes and shortcuts, Alain reminds us that worthwhile goals, whether they are intellectual, moral, or personal, take time to develop. Patience allows individuals to weather the inevitable setbacks and challenges that arise when pursuing any meaningful goal. It provides the mental and emotional fortitude needed to stay the course, even when the end goal seems distant or unattainable. Patience is not passive resignation, it is the active decision to keep working steadily toward one's ideals, even when external rewards or recognition are slow to come. In contemporary life, this lesson is particularly valuable in both personal and professional settings. Whether one is pursuing a long-term career goal, personal development, or a deep relationship, patience is the foundation for enduring progress. Alain's wisdom encourages us to cultivate this virtue, knowing that the most significant achievements in life are often those that require sustained, patient effort. 9. The power of simplicity in life. Alain's philosophy also stressed the value of simplicity, not just in lifestyle but in thought. He believed that many people complicate their lives unnecessarily by focusing on superficial distractions or excessive desires. Simplicity, for Alain, was a way to achieve clarity and focus in both thought and action. La simplicité est la sophistication suprême. Simplicity is the ultimate sophistication. This idea echoes Alain's broader philosophy. To live authentically and meaningfully, we must strip away unnecessary distractions and focus on what truly matters. Simplicity does not mean renouncing enjoyment or pleasure, but rather letting go of excess, extraneous ambitions, and superficial desires. By simplifying our lives, we create space for greater clarity, purpose, and personal fulfillment. In practical terms, simplicity means focusing on what is essential, whether it's in our daily routines, our relationships, or our values. In the modern age, where consumer culture often promotes the accumulation of more, Alain's lesson on simplicity is a call to prioritize depth over breadth, quality over quantity. By simplifying our material possessions, our mental clutter, and our goals, we can lead a more focused and meaningful life, allowing us to devote more energy to what truly matters. Alain's belief in simplicity encourages us to embrace a more minimalist approach to life, finding richness in what is simple, true, and lasting. 10. The importance of courage in facing life's challenges. Alain also believed that courage was essential for navigating the challenges of life. Courage, in Alain's view, was not just about facing physical danger but also about confronting difficult truths, embracing vulnerability, and taking risks in order to grow and achieve. Le courage, c'est de faire ce qui est juste, pas si que est facile. Courage is doing what is right, not what is easy. This lesson speaks to the importance of standing firm in the face of adversity. Whether in personal relationships, professional endeavors, or moral dilemmas, courage is required to make difficult decisions, challenge the status quo, and act in accordance with one's values. Courage also involves the willingness to face uncertainty, knowing that growth and progress often require stepping outside one's comfort zone. In modern society, where it is easy to follow the crowd and avoid confrontation, Alain's emphasis on courage is a timely reminder that true growth happens when we confront our fears and uncertainties. Courage is the quality that allows us to make difficult choices, even when the outcome is uncertain or uncomfortable. It enables us to embrace challenges as opportunities for growth, knowing that the path to personal fulfillment often requires overcoming internal and external obstacles. Conclusion. The life lessons drawn from Alain's philosophy serve as a powerful guide to living thoughtfully and with purpose. His insights on optimism, happiness, self-discipline, patience, simplicity, and courage offer practical tools for navigating the complexities of modern life with wisdom, resilience, and integrity. Alain's emphasis on personal responsibility, critical thinking, and intellectual engagement makes his work as relevant today as it was in his own time. By embracing these principles, individuals can cultivate lives that are not only filled with meaning and fulfillment but also aligned with a deep, enduring sense of personal and moral clarity. Alain's philosophy teaches us that the path to wisdom is not paved with external rewards, but with the cultivation of inner virtues that empower us to live authentically and thoughtfully.